Okay, I've succumbed to peer pressure and we are making Big Mac tacos. If you haven't seen them by now, I'm not entirely sure where you've been for the last 6 months because everybody seems to be making them. I kind of thought they were a phase that would have died off and they didn't. They're still going, they're still pop up my feed every day. So I put them back onto the cook list and thought we need to see what the fuss is all about. Is it a trend that is worthy of being a trend, or is it just a load of hype because it's a popular fast food chain? So I planned to cook, and Storm Betty has rolled in, so we weren't able to do a kind of talking to camera cook, so we're doing a good old-fashioned voiceover style cook. The wind has sort of died down, still have the odd gust, so if I start wobbling a little bit or the camera starts shaking, you know what's going on. In other news, but the shack has survived its first storm. They were like 70, 80 mile an hour winds. It did get pretty rough, but she never moved. It's well built, you see. So I'm kind of glad it's had a test. Maybe not hurricane winds, but it was definitely strong, so I'm a happy man. But anyway, let's go on with the cook. So we're doing them on the Blackstone griddle. Kind of makes sense. It's the most logical thing to do them on. As with all Blackstone cooks, we prep everything ahead of time because the cook takes no time at all. I've had to change camera angles because it is starting to rain again. Betty will just not give up and go. The most iconic thing about the Big Mac is the Big Mac sauce, and there are 101 different recipes out there, I believe, for it. Possibly 102. I've tried a few of them and I've kind of tweaked a few different ones that I didn't quite think was right. It's very hard to get a difference between a burger sauce and then the Big Mac sauce. Lots of recipes taste like a burger sauce but don't quite taste like the Big Mac sauce, and I'm almost certain there are ingredients in there that we don't have access to. Mostly sweet pickle relish. Oh, I can't get it over here for love nor money. There's a few places list it, but they never have it in stock. I've kind of substituted that out with pickles, a little bit of pickle juice, and a little bit of sugar just to add sweetness to it. So we're starting off with mayonnaise. The base for it is mayonnaise, and we're going about half a cup of mayonnaise. Into that we're adding about a heaped teaspoon of American mustard. Then we have a couple of seasonings going there. There is a pinch of white pepper, and I mean a pinch, I don't mean half a teaspoon. It's just literally a pinch. Then we have about a teaspoon of paprika, sweet paprika, not smoked, and about a teaspoon of onion granules. So I believe into that then goes the sweet pickle, but I don't have it, so we went in with about just over a tablespoon, a heaped tablespoon of very, very finely chopped pickle. I've done it before, leaving it slightly bigger chunks. It just doesn't work. You want this nearly to dissolve or mash down into the sauce. It'll never disappear completely, but you do not want big chunks of pickle in there. Then we add about quarter teaspoon of sugar and a dash of pickle juice. Now I mean, bloop, tiniest little bit. I don't know what the measurements are, just add a little dash. Give that all a mix together, and to me that is pretty close to the Big Mac sauce. All right, moving on to onions and lettuce. There's no recipe to this, however, there is a certain way I think they should be prepared. If you buy a Big Mac, you bite into it, you might get the flavour of onion, but you do not get the texture of onion, and that's because everything is cut so fine. So for the tacos, you need to do the same thing. Take your time. I'm not a master with a knife, just go slow, but you want the onions as fine as possible, the smallest dice you can get them. And the same with the lettuce. You don't want big chunks of lettuce in there. We're going to shred it, but we want it done as fine as possible. It's not really going to affect the flavour, but it's going to affect the final texture. And when the onions cut so fine, I think whenever they're sprinkled onto that kind of hot meat and cheese, because they're so small, the heat from the meat is enough to like soften them slightly, so it's not a real raw onion taste. I don't know, I could be talking nonsense, but I just think it works better, so do it. And that's pretty much everything prepared. Now it's time to put them together and get them onto the griddle. So there are two schools of thought with this. I've seen them done with the mince rolled into a ball, put on to the griddle, the tortilla set on top of them, and just kind of smashed like a smash burger. I wasn't too keen on that because you can't really control what way it smashes and what way it goes onto the tortilla, so I have opted for the one where you smear it over one side of the tortilla. So do that, give it a season with salt and pepper, and that's them ready to go onto the griddle. But I can't stress this enough, have everything else to hand. These are super thin, they cook in seconds. So if you turn your back or have to run into the house and get something, chances are they're going to be well over. So fire up your Blackstone, we want a nice high searing heat on this, and get them on meat side down. I'm not joking, we're talking 30 seconds later, they're pretty much ready to turn. They cook so fast. You can give them a little press down into the griddle just to make sure you're making nice contact all over, and to make sure the edges of that tortilla are kind of soaking up any juices that come out of the actual beef itself. And then once you've got a nice crust on them, get them flipped over and then straight on with a square of cheese. It has to be dirty burger cheese. It can't be any other kind of cheese. It just won't work. It won't taste like a Big Mac. So cheap, nasty, square plastic cheese is what you want. Now I have seen some build them up on the griddle or on the skillet or whatever they're doing them on. I'm not sure that's a great idea, because by the time I got everything added onto these, the bottom of that tortilla would be completely burnt. So once you put the lid down to let that cheese melt, give it another, what, 30 seconds, 40 seconds at the most. Lift it up and get them off. You can add the other ingredients once they're on the cutting board. So onto the cutting board, we go straight on with the onions. So add a little sprinkling of onions over the top of it. Like I say, the residual heat from that is going to soften those off slightly. That's why they're diced so small. Then we go on with our lettuce. You can put a little sprinkling of it across the middle as well. I wouldn't overload it. You kind of want a nice even balance of, there's not a lot of meat in them, so you don't want to overload it with lettuce. But just enough to kind of fill up the center. Then we go on with our sauce. Be as generous as you want. You can always have a little bit off to the side for dipping it in after if you want to. And then finally, you can't forget the pickles. If you're the kind of person that eats a Big Mac with no pickles, I'm not sure we can be friends. So get a couple of pickles on there and that is them finished. Now I'll hand you over to past me to actually give them a try. Right, they're finally off. We are going to give them a try. It probably took me longer to cut the lettuce than it did to actually cook them. So they're a very simple thing to make, but does simple mean they taste good? Let's find out. Alright, let's see what they taste like. I'm gagging to get one of these in me. Tacos crisped up nicely. Fold it over. Oh, rubs up. I 100% get the hype. What a mess. I'm gonna drip over the rest of them. I don't know if it's just because it's a flavour that we are so used to. That combination, lettuce, onion, pickle, Big Mac sauce, beef, cheese, and bread. You know, it's not bread, but it does taste phenomenal. I can fully understand the hype around them, purely because they're a little bit iconic, but they do work. It's not one of these fads that everybody tries but it tastes like crap. Yeah, I'll definitely be making those again. And then taking the time to do the lettuce that way, to do the onions really fine, makes a massive difference. You bite into it, you can taste onion, but you don't get that big chunk of, or crunch of onion. You can taste the lettuce, but it's fine. It's not big crunchy lettuce. I think that's the secret to a Big Mac. Everything's, the flavors are there, but not necessarily the textures are there. So it remains quite a soft bite, but it tastes like it should be crunchy. I don't know how to explain it. But hey, if it works, it works. So I'll leave a recipe down below. Really the sauce is the only thing I need a recipe for, but I'll leave the method down below. Click on it. If you try them out using my method or my sauce, let me know. If you have already tried them out, let me know if you think they were worth the hype or not in the comments below. But I'm on board. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next video where I might make these again.